Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Batwoman Season 3, Episode 6, How Does Your Garden Grow? At least I think that's what it's called. Anyway, this episode is the episode right before the mid-season finale. So, if Episode 7 is his mid-season finale, are there only like 14 episodes this season? I don't know, I need to check online. Anyway, so this episode was just fine. I still think the Freeze episode was a whole lot better because the Freeze episode actually felt like that of an actual Batman like episode, like from something from like say Batman the animated series or even Adam West. You know what I'm saying? Because it had a lot of those things that make Batman Batman, and that's what they did in the Freeze episode. But this episode is fine. It lacked in action big time. There was no action. There wasn't even really a true like villain for the most part. Like there kind of was and kind of wasn't. But this episode was fine. It building on what we know from last week's episode of, and also this whole season of them making pretty much Batman's Rogue Gallery 2.0. It was revealed last week in the Professor Pig episode that like Ryan's brother was not so much tortured by the Joker, but he was kidnapped with a bunch of other kids and he got zapped by his buzzer. And ever since then, he's been dark and psychotic. I don't know how that would turn somebody that way unless the Joy Buzzer has some kind of like nanotech in it and put a little nuttiness in him or something like that. But who knows? Maybe he got experimented on gas or something. We don't know. Anyway, but yeah, her brother is pretty much going to turn into Joker 2.0. And it's also revealed that Mary got pricked by Poison Ivy's vines, and she is going to turn into Poison Ivy 2.0. Now, I will say the whole Poison Ivy thing is a slightly confusing. We find out from last week from Alice that Renee Montoya used to have like a relationship with Pamela Isley before she turned into Poison Ivy. Then she turned into Poison Ivy. And this is where things get a little funky. Like, okay, Bridget Reagan, who I'm a huge fan of, she has been tasked to play Poison Ivy. But we do not know what she is going to look like. However, there has been a photo leaked online of her getting her hair dyed red. So we know at some point she's gonna make some type of appearance in the show. So if you don't know anything about Bridget, here's the thing. She naturally has red hair. I did not know that years ago when I saw her on Legend of the Seeker. Why? Because on Legend of the Seeker, she had dark brown hair. I actually like her dark brown hair a whole lot more than her red hair. I'm just not used to seeing her red hair, but she has typical strawberry blonde hair. So it's not as red as Poison Ivy's red hair. So they had to, so I don't know what her hair color was before they had to dye it. I don't know if she still had the browns or the reds. Because I also saw her in the last ship and she had brown hair. So since she has a lighter red-headed hair color, because she had it in Agent Carter, they probably had to dye it even more red to match that kind of blood red look that Poison Ivy has. That's very iconic in like, comics and anime series and stuff like that. So there's a picture of her getting her hair dyed red. Like I said before, we still don't know what she's going to look like. I have a feeling she's going to be very green. I don't think they're going to go like the cheap human looking route. I think they're going to go more, because they're going the more meta human route, which, there's been so many different versions of Poison Ivy. She's human who can withstand toxins, with human looking skin tones. And, then there's other ones where she's a meta-human where her skin is green and she can control plants with her minds. Seeing what Mary can do in this episode is a safe bet they're going to go the meta-human route, which would be very similar to that of the Poison Ivy from The Batman. And that Poison Ivy was actually pretty cool in season 3. She was a little too chatty, just like Batgirl was too chatty in that season because they were both teenagers. But and she kept using flower puns. That got on my nerves. But yeah, that one was pretty cool. She could pretty much just think of anything, and not only could she think of anything and make, or she could think and make plants do whatever she wants, but she can also create plants just from like, her mind and stuff. So she can make them create from like the ground and this and that. Not only could she do that, but she was an actual plant. Like her hair was that of a rosebud. Her dress was that of leaves, like real leaves growing from her body. Her body was a stem. I'm gonna assume this is the Bridget Reagan route that they're gonna take because of how. Because the reason why Mary is turning into Poison Ivy 2.0 is because look, this is the part I said that gets a little funky. So Renee said that she asked Batman to like I think bury Poison Ivy alive, and he did because of some weird reason. I don't know why exactly, but he buried her alive because she is that of a plant. And so I guess something like she's down. I guess her body corpse is down in the ground, and with no water and no sunlight, she's unable to grow. So she kind of like withered away or something like that. Or maybe she was sick and he put her in the ground to like, I don't know. This part is confusing because even if she's underground, technically she should still grow. There's rain, there's sunlight, so I don't understand that. I just don't understand it. And they keep telling us and they don't show us nothing. So it gets even more confusing when you're already confused and you can't see what the world they're talking about because they want to keep this poison ivy thing a huge secret. They have been building up to this huge moment. It had better pay off, and it better pay off in a big way. If not, then it's just going to fall flat. And but then somehow her essence is inside her vines, like her being. And whenever she pricks somebody, they become the new host. So I don't know if the OG. So this is part of another thing confusing. So was this version of Poison Ivy just a plant to begin with? And every time it pricks somebody, it puts its power in something? I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. But I'm pretty sure she was a real person, and then she turned into a plant. I think she got experimented on or something like that. And so every time, like I guess she dies, she can just prick somebody and she can live within them. But when they did that to Mary, she has a different personality, sure, because part of her is Poison Ivy now. But Mary is still in there acting like Mary, and it's just like the Poison Ivy like venom stuff that's in her is kind of like it's kind of like alcohol doesn't change you, it just makes you more who you are, and it makes you do things you necessarily wouldn't necessarily do because you're so reserved. And that's kind of how the Poison Ivy um I just want to call it venom, I guess. I can't think of the other thing, is inside of her, making her do things she normally would never do. So it's kind of like that, I guess. But it's just so confusing, and they won't show nothing. So. So the thing starts off pretty cool. We have a bunch of kids hanging out playing basketball, and one of them discovers a man in a shed, and he has been honeybee five, mummified, and honeybee. Well, he's a giant honeycomb, and there's bees coming out of him. The visual is great. I love it. Like, this is what Gotham. When you think of Gotham City, this is what I think of. Like, craziness like that. Like, one thing that's been kind of bugging me about the Batwoman series is that how clean the city looks, especially during the daytime. Like, I want a dirty Gotham City. Even at night, it looks clean. And so, yeah, it was cool to see this dude like turn into like a honeybee cone and stuff. Also, I'm very happy to see that people in the city are actually talking and interacting, and we can see them doing stuff. Like in past seasons in Arrowverse shows, you never really see the townspeople doing things on their own unless like one of our main characters is there. So I'm liking this that they're doing in the beginning of every episode, where people are finding like out of the villain relics or something. I mean, I get why they don't have many people in the town interacting with each other, because these shows do cost a lot of money. So, you can't really waste it on like paying an extra. But still, it's nice to see them interact with each other. So I am liking this change in the season. And so, Renee Montoya, she shows up on the scene, and this Renee Montoya, she's a bit mysterious, but she looks like she has a stick up her butt. She's a very hard-nosed detective who doesn't take crap from anybody and gives anybody, whether they're male or female, lip service and stuff. I kind of like that because it's kind of like that's how I would expect a detective, especially from Gotham City, to act, like a no BS taking kind of person. But they're getting to the point where she's too like raging BSy, you know what I'm saying? And so it's kind of making her a little bit unlikable. Because the thing about Renee Montoya is that Renee Montoya is a very light character. When she was created in Batman the Animated Series, people loved her. We wanted to see more of her. She got put in the comic book. She got put in the movies. She's been in live action adaptations. And so like she's been in animated movies. And so it's like this version is just very pissy and mean. But it seems like she has a hidden agenda. So it's kind of like, what is really going on with her? You gotta keep a lookout for her because, she seems to be the lover scorn type thing. But anyways, so, she contacts the Bat team and she tells them straight up, like, this and this has been going on, and they have no idea about Poison Ivy 2.0 because Alice has not told them. And so they said this guy who's been attacked, check his phone records, see who he had contact with, stuff like that. And then chances are you'll find the person who probably did this. So then of course Alice has to reveal that she knew about the whole Poison Ivy thing, but she doesn't tell people that it's Mary. She knows it's Mary. Because her interactions with Mary and stuff. And so she's keeping that for them and from them. And it's just going to cause problems later. That's who she is. She likes to cause like confusion in people's head and stuff like that. So I'm glad they haven't fully redeemed her yet. And she's still a little bit of Alice, but she is getting redeemed. Like you best believe she is, but she's still a little bit her old self. But she later leaves the team to go hang out with Mary because she found out that Montoya contacted Mary and gave her the dude who was turned into a honeycomb. So she knows that Mary did this to this man, but they don't know that. So when she goes and talks to Mary, now I gotta say this right here, right now. The actress who plays Mary, I think her name is Angela Kang. I've always liked her. She's gorgeous. She dresses way too cute for the show. And it's just kind of like, man, like that's how I like seeing like some women dress, you know what I'm saying? I like the buns, I like the cute outfit she wears. She's like a gorgeous woman. And and I love how she has like, that's one thing about her, like she's Asian on the show and she's the only Asian person and she has her own look and her own style, very much of that of an Asian person you would see, or like in say like K-pop or like J-pop or like Sailor Moon, something like that, you know what I'm saying? Anime. Okay, let's put it like that. You see somebody, like the way she dresses somebody, you see somebody dressed like that in anime. And so I like how she has her own unique vibe, style to her that's not like everybody else. Like pretty much when she walks into a room, you know exactly who she is, not just because she's the only Asian person on the show, but just because of how she dresses. Similar to that of Alice. Alice has a very unique way of she dresses and stuff. Like, I don't want everybody looking absolutely the same. Same thing with Luke. He has his own style. He's always dressed up in suits and everything, And that's why I like when people have their own individual styles in the show. That seems very blah at times, very bland. And so, but the thing about her is that even though I like her, she's not exactly the greatest actress on the show. Sorry. Like, I like you and all, but like, you're okay at acting. It's not always that great. However, her acting, in my opinion, has always been best when she acts with Dougray Scott. I think that's his name. The dude who played her dad on the show. That's when she had her best scenes ever in season 1 and in season 2. Also, she has her better scenes when it's more focused on her, when she's not acting out of character, like when she's punking out Luke or trying to drive them Batmobile and having all this kooky stuff, you know what I'm saying? In this episode, this was by far her best acting ever. Like, she not only played her role the way she normally plays Mary, but she played it as very disturbed Mary, sad Mary, and she did a great job. Then when she did the whole poison ivy thing, she really committed, you know what I'm saying? Because normally when you hear people talk about this show, people always say the same thing. The actress who plays Alice is like the best part of the show. She's like the best acting person, this and that. Because she actually tries to bring like a character to life with the kookiness and craziness of Harley Quinn and the Joker. And people, you know, they praise the other stars in there too, but they always say Rachel is like the best. So, but you never hear nobody ever talk about Mary, like ever, like good or bad. So it's kind of like she probably knows that, like, you know, because she's new to acting. That's the thing. She hasn't been in that many roles. So she probably wanted to give it her all, and also do like a good job. You know, Poison Ivy is very iconic, and I think she did a really good job. People should really like give her props for this episode because she wasn't acting the way she normally does. Like, if you ever seen her in the other season, you know exactly how she acts, and she acted completely different in this. The only part in this episode I didn't like her acting when she made that phone call. She was acting a little out of place and trying a little too hard. But other than that, she was cool, you know. So I give her major props for this. So her and Alice, they're talking, and Alice is telling her, oh, you know, you did this to this man and blah, blah, blah. And haven't you noticed your green thumb? Because now Mary has a green thumb. Literally. Her fingernails are now painted green. But she has plants all over her little medical facility now. And she doesn't understand why she's so thirsty and all this other stuff. And so Alice will keep telling you, look, you're poison ivy and everything, but she don't want to believe her. She thinks Alice is hallucinating again. And I love like I love the tension those two have between each other, because she doesn't really like Alice, but she's kind of like just has to like put up with it, you know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like the sister you can't stand type thing, and that's really what they are, because they're like stepsisters and stuff. And so like but then because she's, you know, she's cleaning up the dude who like was turned to a honeybee comb. And so when he finally wakes up, he freaks out when he sees Mary. He's all like, you did this to me. So now she knows, hey, I'm poison ivy. Now when she goes to tell the Bat team that, they don't believe her, because they're like, oh, you're just little sweet Mary, you can never do this. See, this whole season they haven't been paying attention to her ever since she got kidnapped in the s3e6 episode. Every time she keeps saying something weird happened to her and she's feeling different, nobody wants to listen to her for some reason. So she's been having like this like loneliness this entire season. And so now I will say the monologue that she gives in this part, it could have been stronger. You know, it felt kind of flat. Monologues are hard to do. So, you know, anyway, so she cuffs herself to like one of the tables in the Batcave. Like, that's really gonna hold anybody. Like, you'd think Batman would have like an actual like prison that he can hold people in, you know? And so like Alice is there and they're like, oh, you can't be like poison ivy. But then they realize, oh wait, the dude's cell phone, he called Mary 3 times. Then they found out that she has a Tinder profile, which she did not know, because Poison Ivy created it for her. And she went on a date with this man, but he did not like her because she was so sweet. And so out of rejection, the Poison Ivy in her took over and jacked that dude up. So now they're trying to figure out what triggers her, what causes her to turn to Poison Ivy, because she doesn't remember and stuff. And so like, as they're there and talking, Alice is kind of like just like paying attention and just looking at her and kind of like egging on everybody in the room, but she's egging on Mary even more. So I guess she's trying to figure out if like, you know, anger can make it come out. Why she's trying to make Poison Ivy come out so much? I don't know. I know she wants those nanobites taken out of her. I know she doesn't like working with that team. And so maybe, who knows? Like, this is just her messing with people again. But then again, her little stepsister is now going to be a villain. So now they don't have that in common. So, you know. So nobody can figure out what's the, like, trigger word or anything like that. And so, like, as they're all trying to figure that out, now let's get into some Sophie stuff. Earlier in this episode, Sophie and Ryan are still doing the flirting thing. We see Sophie in the bat cave eating Chinese food, wanting to kind of have like a little dinner date with Ryan. But Ryan is kind of like just not like feeling it right now because there's some tension between those two. And the tension isn't romantic tension, it's kind of like family tension. See, a couple of episodes ago in Anti-Freeze, Sophie's sister was kidnapped and experimented on and nearly died. And that was a result of those people who had Mr. Freeze serum and gave it to Jada, which is Ryan's mom. Jada said she had nothing to do with that. She didn't know they was experimenting on people, but she did want, like, you know, the serum and stuff. I don't know if I even like Sophie don't believe it. Even I don't really believe her, to tell you the truth. I mean, because it's kind of like she knows her son is ill. She wanted this freeze serum for a reason. And so at some point, they're going to have to defrost his behind and make sure he's alive. But so, of course, they're going to have to experiment on people. So I just don't really believe her. I liked it better when they had her the villain. That's so sympathetic. So anyways, so this is causing tension between those two because of the whole mom thing. And it's going to be even more tension between those two because it turns out that, well, first let's, so like the dude who kidnapped her sister, Sophie wants that dude to pay, period. Like, you know, she wants to help track this dude down, but you know, the Bat family, they're busy. So Sophie goes to Montoya and, you know, those two can't stand each other. She even makes fun of Sophie for not having a job no more. Seriously, how is Sophie paying her bills? She has no job no more. And so she wants Montoya's help in, like, you know, finding the guy who kidnapped her sister and experimented on her and stuff. Meanwhile, as Luke is doing his like brainy stuff, he determines that Mary went to a hardware store and bought some stuff. They don't know why. So Alice and Batwoman, they go to investigate. Now, I like this scene. I love how the Batmobile rolls up in the middle of nowhere, upside down. The reflection of it from the camera work. Of course, they're trying to do the whole The Batman thing from the trailer when Penguin is upside down and he sees Batman walking towards him upside down. So they're always trying to steal from like the cinematic stuff. If only they'll make their show better like the cinematic stuff. So I do like this scene. We see a guy, he's buried underground, with his head sticking up from the ground. It's just a big open field and it's Batwoman and it's Alice. Is this a real open field? It looks more like a studio type thing, but it's still cool looking. So they're like, this must be Mary's handiwork and everything. They're all like, why did she do this? And it turns out it's the guy that Sophie is looking for. So they don't give him to Montoya, but instead they give they take him down to like the Batcave, so they can like interrogate him and stuff. So as they're all still trying to figure out what's going on with Mary and everything, Alice lets slip to, well, she didn't let it slip. She tells Sophie that, hey, we got your bad guy you're looking for. So she goes down in there and to interrogate him. And so Ryan, she let it slip to Ryan that, hey, I let it slip to your little girlfriend that we have her guy she's been looking for. So Ryan's pissed and she goes down there. And we see literally Sophie is torturing the crap out of this dude with a blowtorch. She burns his face till this huge hole comes in his cheek. That's pretty gruesome for the CW. I give them props for that. So now this is more tension between those two. She's pissed that Ryan first stopped her from trying to kill this dude and getting revenge. And then so she's also pissed that Ryan didn't tell her that, hey, they had this dude in their captivity and stuff. So needless to say, their smushing time will never happen. So now they're trying to figure out once again what's causing, you know, Mary to do what she does, and it's just Luke and it's Alice. I do like the interaction. I like the interaction with Luke and Alice. It was pretty cool. Like she was all up in his face, and he kind of just like pushed her to the side and stuff. That was kind of cool. Like she's becoming like the annoying sister to like everybody. So they're trying to find something for her to do and her to interact with everybody. And I do like her interaction with everybody. And so one thing I noticed as they were like talking in the back cave, I started seeing this light shine through from where the tree is at. I still don't know how the light is shining through a cave that's underground. That's underground a bit. So this is why I don't understand why the Bat Cave is underneath Wayne Enterprises. I don't understand that. How, like, where does the Batmobile come up from when it leaves? 'Cause it must come up from like a tunnel somewhere and out in the middle of nowhere. But it's kind of like, how is there a tree there? And not only how is there a tree, but how is there like sunlight that goes through it? Because it's literally the sunlight will have to crack through out of the building or crack through the cement and then go into the cave. I don't understand that. Anyway, so I noticed that there was a light shining, and so Mary's kind of like delirious a little bit, and Luke is trying to figure out, oh, what could trigger it and everything, and then Alice is the one who actually figures it out. I don't understand. She figures out it's sunlight that triggers poison ivy. Now, I got some problems with this. First and foremost, so that means Mary is poison ivy all during the day, the moment she like wakes up like from her home, because it's sunlight. It's not the actual day. It's sunlight. So anytime sunlight is on her, boom, she's poison ivy. So when she wakes up and she opens her curtains, boom, she's poison ivy. When she goes outside, boom, she's poison ivy. She's no longer poison ivy during the night in late afternoon. How do people not notice that? Like her friends, like, because she lives with Ryan. So the moment, because she's Ryan's roommate. So the moment she wakes up and sees some sunlight, Ryan should be like, oh, something's kind of weird going on with you. Why are your eyes all of a sudden green? Why are you like acting weird and everything? And it's just like, that don't make no sense for it to only be triggered during like the sun. And if it's only triggered during the sun, so like Batman don't fight during the daytime, he fights at night. So that means he fights the poison ivy host every time during the daytime. So whatever. That's so dumb. Anyway, so it triggers her. She turns into poison ivy and she whacks Luke with the keyboard. I swear to God, man, they made this man in such a weenie because it's the CW. And it's just they make him into a weenie. He's always getting punked out by Mary. And not only that, but he couldn't even figure out that the plant, because, okay, so here's the thing. Alice figured out that she needed sunlight because she's always guzzling water because she's always thirsty. Plants need sun and they need water. And so Luke should have been able to figure that out. Well, Mary drinks tons of water, so what else would she need? Sunlight. But he's not able to figure that out. He's supposed to be the smartest person on this show, but yet everybody else is smarter than him at times. Alice is smarter than him at times. Mary is smarter at times. Even Ryan, who doesn't have much of an education, is smarter than him. And so, so Poison Ivy 2.0 has now been awoken. She talks to Alice and everything. And like I said before, Mary did a pretty good job. Like she did a really good job. Or Angela or whatever did a really good job and stuff, pretending to be like this other person. And so they're kind of figuring out that Mary isn't so much just killing people at random, and she's not doing an eco-terrorist thing. She's pretty much just getting revenge on like people. She got revenge on the guy who rejected her. She got revenge on the dude who kidnapped Sophie's sister because Sophie was hurting. And so that's her whole thing. So she sets up, so Alice wants Montoya out the picture, period, because she's tired of being a puppet and she's tired of working for these people. Also, she tells the Bat family that Montoya wants to like pretty much just kill whoever the host is, Poison Ivy, because she's like a lover scorn type thing. And so it's more than just, oh, Poison Ivy's dangerous. It's just that, she just doesn't want to see her lover in nobody else's body type thing. So also, so because of that, so it makes you wonder, why does Alice really want Montoya out the picture? Is it because she's gonna kill Mary, or is it because if Montoya is dead, then she no longer has to work for the Bat family and all that stuff? So it's probably a little bit of both, because she is warming up to Mary this season. So they set a trap. Um, and so Montoya, she falls for the trap. And so but before she could fall for the trap, what's their faces? Yeah, she falls for the trap. And so she's getting ready to shoot Mary. But I forgot what stops her. I really don't remember what stopped. I really forgot what stopped her. Or maybe Mary stops her with the vines. Like, I really don't know. It could maybe, let's just say Mary stops her with the vines and takes her to another part of the room. Anyway, Batwoman and Luke shows up. Luke is still main until so they show up, and then the way Batwoman shows up, it's weird. It was some terrible CGI. I don't know why they didn't go practical with this. They could do wire work. Like, it would have been so much easy to have the actress who plays Batwoman be connected to wires, jump down from something high, and land to the ground holding her cape in a very Batman posy like fashion. What did they do? They went the CGI route. They CGI'd this huge fake cape on her. And maybe the body was CGI too, I'm not sure. But the cape, I know for sure, was CGI. And the cape, this was so weird. The cape is not this big, but yet the cape is two times sizes than a normal size. And it's big and it's flappy. And when it comes drooping down, it drooped down in a very bad way. This was terrible. There was no realistic feel to this cape, even when it draped down and hit the ground. Now, I have worked in animation before. I have worked in what's that stuff called? What's that thing called? I forgot what it's called. Like stop motion type stuff. And I have done stuff with like caped people, like cape heroes and stuff. And even I make it look better as an amateur than what they did on the show, and it's pathetic. There was no movement whatsoever with that cape. It was just big and flappy, then it falls draped down, and it didn't drape down in a realistic way. It was so cheap and everything. So in a way, they show up and they are looking for Poison Ivy 2.0, right? And so then here comes the vines, and it's not really all that impressive. All Mary pretty much is doing is just tying them up and dragging them along and everything. And so they eventually like wake up, and then they all like, well, what happened? And they get tied up again. And Luke is freaking out in his suit. He begged like a baby, "Dad, help, help, help," because his dad is the AI system. And so Luke, she just tied him up. That's all she did. Like, she strung him up and she was gonna do something to him. He freaked out like a weenie. I don't want to see him as Batwing no more. I really don't. I get he has PTSD from getting shot, but she didn't have a gun. So he's just freaking out because he's just a scared weenie, and I don't like that. Stop making, like, I don't even want to see him as Batwing no more. Just put him back in the Batcave, tapping away at the computer and stuff. Plus, his helmet is terrible. It's so big and bulky looking because they have to hide his afro in there. You know how you do that? Just like the Power Rangers did in season 1 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You put that cap on their head to smush their hair, and then you put a helmet on them. He won't do that. And so, like, I guess he don't want his hair getting messed up. Maybe he is a diva, like what's the name said, like Ruby said. So anyway, so then Mary is talking to Ryan. And, they having the heart to heart, and Ryan's all like, you're not like this. Why are you doing this? And, you're more than this. You have to fight this. And then this is from the part where it's a little bit confusing. It's not really so much Poison Ivy 2.0. It's Mary being affected by the plants. And you see Mary just talking through them. And so it's like, Mary's telling her, I be trying to tell y'all, this stuff is going on with me, and y'all didn't want to listen to me, and y'all haven't been paying attention to me, like, all season long, and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And, and so if y'all just would have listened, no, 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 you know what I'm saying? And so she pretty much mummifies Batwoman in vines, and she leaves them there, and she leaves with like Alice and stuff. And so like Renee Montoya comes in, I think with an axe, and she frees Ryan. And so like she hits her with the actual axe. How did she know that wasn't gonna kill her? Like, yeah, the bat suit is tough, but still. So then she frees Luke, and so Mary Poison Ivy 2.0 is gone, and Alice is gone, and so yeah, they're gone. Luke and Ryan have their heart to heart. He said he's not ready to wear the suit. They're worried about Mary. We see Sophie at a club, and at Ryan's little bar place. She's drinking. Montoya comes in. They drink together. By the way the music was playing, the way they kept staring at each other, I knew what was gonna happen. And boom, they smush. So that's gonna cause some dramatic tension between her and Ryan, which I'm really happy to see because they need some type of lovers quarrel type tension type thing. But so who knows where this is gonna go? You know what I'm saying? And yeah, Mary is now Poison Ivy 2.0, and now they have to go look for her and stuff. And so Ryan, she calls her mom because they need help and stuff. I forget. Well, I think they help with Mary and all this other stuff. I guess they probably gonna freeze Mary or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. Have to find out next week's episode. So yeah, they're building more and more to this whole Poison Ivy thing. And so Bridget's gonna show up in some capacity. She's either gonna be risen from like the ground if she's buried underneath the ground, or she's gonna be in a flashback probably, you know. But she's gonna be there in some capacity. I hope it's more than just a flashback because one, I really like this actress, and two, I don't want to see her have a teeny tiny role. Like, that's one thing that's been bugging me about the CW Arrowverse is that they get these big name people, and out of these big name stars, they're either doing voice work for the villain, or they have some really bad CGI, or they're just there as like a small scene. Like with Stargirl, Pat's ex-wife, she's played by a pretty big celebrity, and she was just there for a cameo. Also, back in The Flash, when Joe and Barry was investigating his old house and who lives there now, there's like a woman, and this woman, she was in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And so it's kind of like, stop getting these big name people and giving them these teeny tiny roles, you know what I'm saying? And then the dude from the Saw movies, he was the voice of, I think it was the Alchemy, was that his name? I forget, in season 2 of The Flash. And so it's just like, stop getting these big names. Oh, and then the dude, Candyman dude, I forgot his name, Tony Todd. He was the voice of, I forgot the dude's name. Was it Salvatore in The Flash season, what was it, 2 or 3? Like, stop getting these big name people just to do voice work and cameos, man. Like, that's bugging. But all in all, like I said before, this was a fine episode. It lacked action. The Poison Ivy Veins thing wasn't impressive. We've seen that before in a couple of other past episodes. I do like the dude who was buried, and I do like the dude who turned into a honeycomb. That was cool. I don't know how big the CW is going to go with their Poison Ivy. I hope, this is just me wishful thinking, just make some plant people monsters. Do that. If they don't do nothing big and fancy with the plants, and they just have a bunch of vines, that's gonna be lame. You know what I'm saying? And Poison Ivy's a big name person. In an anime series, they always had them fight up against like plant people monsters, you know? And so they could easily make some plant people suits and do that, or some modified suits where just a bunch of people with greenish looking skin and some vines and this and that. But have some real action in this show. Like, stop being so tame. This show is so tame. The Arrowverse is so tame. It's like, when animation can do things and movies can do things better than this show, there's no excuse. And this show should have tons of action. If you watch Xena from the 90s, my God, there was action all through that show. You had people dressed as monsters, for crying out loud. In the Hercules show, you had him fighting him. They could do stuff like that was a low budget syndication show. This is on an actual network, you know. Give these people the budget and just let them have fun with the action. I missed the action in Arrow season one. It was so good. But they can always go bigger and better, and they don't want to because they want to tell story more and have more drama than they want to have more action. And these shows need more action. There is no reason why, like, the Adam West Batman show is a whole lot more funner and entertaining than anything Batwoman and Arrow has ever done. Yeah, they're great in the drama department, but though that show was more entertaining. Nightman, it wasn't a great comic book superhero show, but at least they did more stuff that looked more like a comic book show than these shows are doing. Birds of Prey, the TV show. Originally, when I first watched it when it came out, I didn't like it. I rewatched it about a decade and a half later, and I really enjoyed it to where I bought it on DVD. I actually enjoy it better than the Arrowverse. You have people actually doing real detective work. You have people having real woe is me problems. Not as many woe is me problems as they have on the Arrowverse. And you also have people constantly fighting through the show. You have real lovers like spats. You have just like realistic like stuff, you know. Like that's one thing that I've liked about the openings of season 3 of Batwoman. When you have the people interacting in town with each other, they're actually sounding like realistic people and not people on a Arrowverse CW show, you know. And so that's why I'm kind of liking this season a bit more and stuff. People are actually having personalities and stuff. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.